Today's episode is going to be geared towards questions from the audience. Everyone talks about an unfair advantage. What if I don't have one? I watched an episode of your podcast and you guys hate remote teams. Why? And what if that is my only option? Question mark, question mark, question mark. I want to be a better founder from the get-go. What do the founders that you mentor regret most about not doing early in their journey? Everyone talks about product market fit like it's obvious when you have it, but in your experience, what are the clearest signs that you've actually hit PMF? How should I balance customer discovery versus building product? Should I get significant traction before raising capital or just keep bootstrapping longer? How do I validate demand before investing too much into my idea? I first learned about the tax-saving 1202 QSBS from your podcast. What are the changes announced recently to QSBS? I'm confused. Can you guys explain? What's the best way to find early adopters who will buy when I am trying to build? Welcome to the Startup Ignition podcast, where we spark clarity, action, and everything for early stage founders. I'm Tyler Richards. I'm here with my dad and my co-host, my personal lifelong startup mentor in my back pocket, John Richards.
Hello, hello.
We've both been on both sides of the investor side table. We've been on both sides of the pitch deck. And now we are really diving into what it really takes to build from idea to exit with Startup Ignition, especially here on the podcast. So thank you for tuning in. And we hope we can guide you into building something that's right, something that makes money, and something that gets you to the finish line of wherever you want to be. So we're going to jump right into it today. It's just myself and my dad today.
Just us today, no guests.
No guests, just us two today.
But surprisingly, we get a lot of good feedback on these.
Yeah, and we like just chopping it up. It's fun to just talk shop with startup things, recent events, or just random questions. And today's episode is going to be really geared towards kind of our community and audience. And we've taken some questions from the audience for today and going over some common startup founder questions. But before we dive into those questions, I do have an icebreaker that I want to play with my dad because it's too fun not to. And this one is even better and leaning even more into the generational comparison side by side, the father and son duo.
So are you participating too then?
Yeah, well, I have to deliver it and I know the answers because I had to make it. But yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, so what we're going to do for our icebreaker today, real quick before we dive into this episode, is we're going to play a game that I am calling Startup Generational Side by Side.
Okay.
And so this is the 80s versus the 2020s. Okay. And so I'm going to say a startup oriented thing, object, terminology, something. And then you have to tell me what the comparable thing was in the 80s.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. You ready?
Yep.
Okay, here we go.
Maybe 80s and 90s.
Yeah, 80s and 90s.
Okay,
yeah, because 80s is really early, but 80s and 90s. But it goes back.
I was
into the
your
80s.
age in the 90s, not the 80s. Yeah. Okay, go.
Well, yeah, but you were still doing business in the 80s.
Yeah, I was.
I mean, I know you were at university in the 80s, but didn't you graduate from
I
university
had
in
no
1980?
liquidity though in the 80s. Liquidity came in the 90s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so here we go. So email marketing, like via MailChimp, like what is the 1980s, 1990s version of email marketing?
Two things: direct mail. So direct postal mail, and we did direct mail was huge. That's how you.
I would have
reach the
accepted
masses.
direct mail, flyers, bulk postage, or folded brochures.
Yes, all that's there. But direct mail, and the other one that came around, started in 87 to 89 and got into the early 90s before email hit, was faxing. But it became very, just like spam and emailing
You would
spam.
spam fax?
Yeah, fax. That became a thing. People
You
would get a
just
database of fax numbers, and they said they could market you, and you could send one-pagers through fax to people.
Oh my! I'd be so mad if I was getting actually printed faxes just randomly.
Yeah, that got outlawed eventually.
Yeah, I was
Yes.
going to say that had to become a nuisance. Okay, next one. 2020s. What's the 1980s, 1990s generational side-by-side comparison? Google Drive, Dropbox.
File cabinet.
Yes. I would have accepted floppy disk or filing cabinet.
Floppy disk, file cabinet. And a hard disk. I had hard disks in the 80s and 90s, yeah. So computer drive, but they were not, you couldn't digitize things very much. And so you had databases, but digitizing documents the way that we do, the whole concept of PDFs in a Dropbox or Google Drive now, you would have had physical
literal
printed
cabinets.
out things in cabinets and file folders.
I would have. I literally
we had
said
lots of file folders.
yeah.
and
So filing cabinets. Ding ding ding. Okay, you're 2 for 2. Okay, here we go. Slack for instant team chat.
What I did is we had employee mailbox. Let's say there were 40 employees, 4 by 10, and we would write notes and put them in the boxes.
Okay, so what I said was office intercom, office memos or notes.
Office memos and notes, exactly what we did, yeah.
Or
we had intercom, but that was only for all paging.
Or literal yelling.
Yeah. Yes, you would yell. Yes, you would yell.
Hey, John!
Yeah, you would yell, or the all page, but that was really strict because that could annoy everybody. And then, but huge was going to the mail area where mail was distributed, and there's boxes for everybody. And if I had 5 messages to 5 different people, I would take them with me and put them in their 5 boxes.
So, and they would just come by randomly throughout the day and grab them?
That was a big thing. All of us were walking by to check that.
That's crazy.
That's like hitting refresh inbox in your Gmail.
Okay, so you got it. Yeah. Intercom or office memos and notes or yelling. Okay. Yeah. Calendar scheduling with Calendly. What is the 1980s, 1990s calendar scheduling?
That was calling a person up and talking to them directly. If they had an assistant or receptionist that set their schedule, you had to talk on the telephone to a person, and they had a paper calendar, and I had a paper calendar. So I used a Franklin Day Planner, which was really powerful in my career. I could tell you how that really enhanced my career.
Here are my 3.
Okay.
Planners, phone calls, or direct mail.
I just said
yeah, that's literally what it was. Okay, here we go. Next one. The SaaS delivery model. What is the 1980s, 1990s generational side-by-side comparison of SaaS?
You mean for delivering software?
Yeah, SaaS.
Well,
SaaS.
there was no SaaS. It was shrink wrap client server software, and you bought software on a disk and load on your hard drive.
Yeah. So I had floppy disks, CDs, direct install, cassette tapes, or catalogs.
Yes, and we used cassette tapes in our mini computers. We didn't even have microcompuers, so we had what's a mini computer, which is more powerful than a microcomputer. And then microcomputers passed up mini computers because people stopped developing mini computers. But the mini computers, when we did a backup of the drives, they were put onto cassette tapes.
Yeah. I can't believe they use cassette tapes in a computer.
Yeah. And so imagine how much you had to, because they're not random access.
But they're
from serial access, which means you'd have to fast forward the tape to the right spot to get data off of it.
Oh my gosh. So when did they go from cassette to floppy disk then? Because I felt like floppy disk was more
for backup, there was floppy disks, both hard floppy disk and true floppy disk. The 5 1/4 and then 3 1/2 inch hard case floppy disk, those were not reliable for long-term backup. So you had to do it on cassette tape.
Oh, wow.
Because they would degrade and get broken.
And could cassette hold more too?
Yeah, it held more too.
Yeah, I was going to say floppy disks were pretty minimal.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. We're on number 6 here.
Are you trying to show that I'm old?
No, it's just fun. This is fun. Cloud computing, AWS, Google, Azure. What was the cloud computing equivalent?
There was no such thing. So
what would you do?
You would have client software. So like the first real huge cloud computing thing that transformed everything was not till much later, after the dawn of the internet, and then even into that, I would have to say Salesforce. Salesforce was the first time companies said, why would I take my sensitive data and store it not on my computer, but on some computer somewhere else? That's stupid.
Yeah.
And of course, now we don't even think about it. This is how technology goes. Now it's stupid not to do that. And then accounting was one of the last things to fall, because accounting, for instance, QuickBooks just with QuickBooks Online, for a long time, people said, I'm not storing my accounting software out on the cloud in a server somewhere in some else's company.
Well,
but now we don't
at sensitive data. I remember
I have all my sensitive data on Dropbox and Google Drive.
I remember when I was like a kid, you got mad at me when I wanted to do a credit card purchase on the computer. You're like, I'm not putting my credit card on there. Remember?
People were scared of credit cards going out there being ripped off. And then it turned out that it was safer, even in the early days of credit card purchasing on the internet, it was safer to do that than go to the store because they had a carbon copy. I don't know if you know. They put your credit card in the machine.
Keep all the information.
And they swiped the machine across, and they had a piece of carbon underneath it, which then printed onto paper an image of your credit card. And then that's how they did credit card purchasing. But what people would do that worked at the retail stores for that, the employees would steal those instead of throwing away that copy, and then take that number and the expiration date on the card and go purchase.
Yeah, go do other purchases.
Yeah.
Okay, so your answer to cloud computing is what then?
There's no. That's such a transformational.
Okay,
concept.
so I have on-prem servers.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah,
of course I said on my own computer.
So literally servers in your closet, like on premise, or I would have accepted mainframe, like a mainframe thing.
But just think of what's happened to technology. So on-prem goes to cloud. And I call that client server model. But anyway, the on-prem and now they're having to worry about AI. Yeah. Okay. What of my stuff is in a public or widely accessible LLM and all that? Well, now corporations are saying, when they're working with AI companies, what of my data is going out into the general, AI cloud? And 10 years from now, nobody's going to care that, because they're going to realize that the whole concept of intellectual property, copyright, all this stuff is having to be transformed. And we're not sure where it's going to lie, because there's court cases right now being won and lost in these arenas. It's so fascinating. Anyway.
Did you see that Sam Altman basically said that, he's cautioning everybody to have these conversations with ChatGPT, because he's like, these things can be called up in a court case. Like the government and people, whatever you're confidently telling these chats, he's like, these things can be used in court and in law. So
just like
careful.
Email and text and everything.
So he's just like, these are not like secured, like your own personal things. Like these can be called upon.
Of course.
So he was just warning people this last week about that.
Yep.
Okay. So another one. Here we go.
I wonder if you could have a closed chat that doesn't go out, and just you and your attorney on it. It's under attorney-client privilege. That's interesting concept.
That would have to be locked down.
Yeah.
Okay. Zoom meetings. What's the side-by-side equivalent of Zoom meetings in 1980?
An in-person meeting.
Yeah. And hey, guys.
Or a telephone party, multi-line. It was a big deal when you could have they were three-way conference call, they were called.
Yeah.
And what you did is, before mobile phones, you had a landline, okay?
Yeah.
And the phone company would make it so, you know how when you hung up something, if you did a quick click of the clicker, you could add a second person on the call if you paid for that service.
Yeah. So I had in-person meetings, conference rooms, calls on landlines, or literal travel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what
But the calls, they literally had it where you could add a second caller, so you could have a three-way call.
Yeah. So you could have a conference call on a landline.
Yeah.
Okay.
Three-way only, not four.
Okay. What's the equivalent of a pitch deck in 1980?
Presentation flip chart or binder.
I can't believe flip chart was such a terminology. That's what it said. So it said a 35 millimeter slide projector, a printed slides in a leather portfolio book, or a flip chart.
Yes.
What is a flip chart? Is it just like one of those like easels?
It's like a 3-ring binder flip chart.
Oh, like those spiral bound.
Yeah, and then the easel flip chart could be that
bigger,
too, that where you draw.
But you would have like
but you could have a 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper
and just set it down on the desk and flip it when you talk.
In plastic sleeves, and they had 3 rings, so 3-ring binder.
And then you would
switch
out
go
the
like
paper.
This. You would be talking and flip chart.
So if you had a slide edit, you'd have to take out the slide and put it back in the screen protector.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing. Flip chart.
It was a big thing. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Last one. Online payment processing, like on Stripe.
When Amazon started in 1996 selling books, you had online processing, but they probably had to build their own system for that. It wasn't anybody selling that as a service. Each company had to build their own payment gateway. First, they had to build their own catalog, it was called. This is the terminology in the 90s. Catalog, shopping cart, payment gateway, payment processor.
When you sold someone across town, how would you collect payment?
Okay, I was saying the early days of the internet. You want to go before the internet, then how would you collect payment?
Yeah.
Credit card over the phone.
Okay, so phone, credit card?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
If you could run it through, but that's also
Would you do the carbon copy swipers?
You would just write down on, instead of the carbon copy swiper,
You just write down the information. Oh, and then who would process it?
It would just say you'd send it in the credit card company.
Oh, the credit card company would process it for you. How would you verify that, yes, they want to make
You're
this
talking
purchase?
before there were terminals
Yeah.
that sent information to the credit card company.
Yeah.
You would gather your day's signed or submissions, piece of paper, and send them to the credit card company.
And they would have to verify with the purchaser, did you want to make this purchase or
I
not?
was assume that they made the purchase. If somebody's committing fraud, they'd get caught.
Yeah. Like, I guess it's just so frustrating, that whole process.
Well, think about before fax machines.
But would you fax?
Fax machines, yes, you could fax somebody a credit card authorization. They would fill it out and send it back. That started 87 to 89, yes.
And like bank approvals and stuff, like
All
debit
that stuff.
cards?
Fax changed everything. Before fax, if I wanted to do business with you and propose something, I had a word processor from the early 80s. I would print it out on the printer, sign it, put an envelope, put a postage on it, send it to you. Take 2-3 days. You get it. You read it. You write me a letter back, send back a response. We do that for weeks, okay, to consummate deals and do things.
Yeah, that's just so
then
slow.
All of a sudden, when fax came, it was
sped
like
everything up.
revolutionary.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for playing my side-by-side generational startup terminology comparison game.
Oh, by the way, I should say FedEx made a bunch of money overnight. What you do sometimes, instead of doing postal mail, take 2-3 days, you could do FedEx same day or overnight, pay $30 to have a single page letter
they still offer
delivered.
that. They still offer that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Moving on from the icebreaker, that was great to see the differences and how far we've come with
So
technology.
fascinating.
But man, being a startup founder in today's age is so much easier
Can I
and so
tell you
much
one
quicker and
interesting-
way more efficient than it used
Here's
to
an
be.
interesting fact. They made a prediction in the 80s that with all the coming technology that they saw, they thought the United States was going to go like Europe, where Europe was starting to average 35 and 30-hour average work weeks. And America, being entrepreneurial and hardworking, what they've done with all the technology, instead of going down to leisurely 20, 25, 30-hour work weeks on average,
They just do
they
more.
just cram more in the 40 hours.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened. The amount of work that the average worker from the 80s and 90s till now that the average worker can get done per hour is astronomically more efficient and productivity. I would have to say that I get more done in an hour today by a factor of 10 to 25, somewhere in there, than I did back then.
So like literally an hour today was worth a day back in the 80s.
But here's what's fascinating. So are all my competitors and people I have to compete against. So we've all ratcheted up. So that's why, I'm 25x more efficient. Why am I not getting ahead of everybody? Because everybody else is too.
Yeah. But I also think that we're not going to become lazy or diminish our work hours or our work week until we're literally flat blobs in a chair that we don't have, like Ready Player One, where we don't have to literally do anything.
Look what we're doing with AI.
Because there's always going to be hustlers and entrepreneurs who are wanting to get further ahead.
Is anybody here working less because of AI? No, we're cramming more per hour.
We're just doing more.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So that's the difference.
Unless you're purposely taking it easy. Yeah.
Right. So, okay, today's whole episode is focused on common startup founder questions that we run into a lot, that we are constantly regurgitating and answering. We've mentored thousands, if not tens of thousands of entrepreneurs at this point, and we come across a lot of common questions. And I opened up this episode and the agenda for this episode to our community online, on social media, on YouTube. And I have 20 questions that I filtered from all the questions that I took in and whittled them down to 20 questions that I'm going to throw in front of John today. I know what they are because I put this agenda together.
Go for it.
But I think we can both tackle all of these questions.
I don't know it, so it'll be fun.
So I don't know if we'll get to all 20 of them because I'm not going to do an hour or 2 hour long episode here. Let's keep it
let's go fast,
relatively short.
Fast and punchy answers.
Yeah, let's try to go like 2 minutes on each of these questions. So it's a total segment of only 40 minutes.
Go for it.
So you get a minute, I get a minute, and then we'll tackle all of them. Okay, so I'm just going to go down the list here, and here's the very first one. I'm just going to read it right here. Here it is. I want to be a better founder from the get-go. What do the founders that you mentor regret most about not doing early in their journey? So what is the number one or the things that founders end up regretting not doing early on?
Well, I'm going to go from the vantage point regretting because they failed or fell short of what they thought entrepreneurship was going to do for them is they failed to find product market fit. They didn't make finding product market fit the all-encompassing task.
Yeah, I would say that my answer correlates with that, which is they regret not making it because most entrepreneurs don't make it, right? So it's like if you're going down this path and working really hard, most entrepreneurs, the statistics say you're not going to become wealthy.
And that's because they run out of time and money. Every entrepreneur's in a race against time to find product market fit.
Yeah, and so my answer would be most founders that I run into, they regret not doing the customer validation and customer discovery properly and wasting the time.
Or most of them don't know how. And so after they fail, they said, I never found product market fit. They regret that they didn't take the time to learn how to do it and take the time to do it.
Or they literally just leap into building without taking the time to validate and interview.
Premature scaling.
Yes. So the number one thing I think we would answer to say do most founders regret from not doing early on, it's the real underlying work of customer validation and product market fit.
And then also that regret then comes back to why didn't I stop and get help and mentorship and understand what I needed to do?
Yeah, because skipping those steps is wasted time, wasted money, and even the risk of building a solution that you pour your life's work into that nobody wants.
I can't talk on this topic without saying one thing to our listeners and viewers. There's a lot of things that feel sexy and cool and smart that are premature scaling and cause you to not find product market fit and make that your all-encompassing focus. And you feel like you're doing really important, cool things, but you will a year or two down the road fail because you didn't find product market fit, but you felt during the time you were avoiding finding product market fit that you were doing cool things. That's not true entrepreneurship. That's not real entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Okay, this one is from our community, which is cool. Guys, go create a free account, join our community, collaborate with other like-minded entrepreneurs and other startup founders that are doing the same thing you are in the same path that you are on. But this one's from our community, and it says...
You go to startupnation.com and just hit join.
Yeah, literally just sign up for a free account. It costs absolutely nothing, and you're in our channels, and you can talk to our community.
Message us and ask us questions.
Yeah, we're on there every day. I get so many notifications, people pinging me.
Okay, go.
Number 2, here it is, from our community. Everyone talks about product market fit like it's obvious when you have it, but in your experience, what are the clearest signs that you've actually hit PMF?
When you've hit product market fit.
Yeah, so everybody talks about product market fit like it's obvious when you have it. In your experience, what are the clearest signs that you actually hit PMF?
When your customers are raving about your product and buying it and renewing. So the clearest signal truly, if I had to boil it down to one, is you sell a customer something and they rebuy it, re-up, and want to continue paying you for it. That's product market fit.
Yeah, and that's when it's obvious. Like there's no clear signal that you have product market fit. Like it is a journey. Like there's no
like a black, white
there's not like a single milestone. Oh, you hit product market fit. It's a combination of things, but one of the clearest signs is when customers are pulling your product from you, not the other way around. Yeah. If you're trying to cram it down their throat and sell it to them and crickets are chirping, you do not have product market fit. If they're clamoring for your product and they're trying to pull it from you and saying, I need that right now, that is the clearest sign of product market fit. So if you have customers begging you for something, you have product market fit. You might need to still tweak and pivot and perfect the model, but you have product market fit. And if that's not there, that's also probably the clear sign you don't have product market fit. Because I have a lot of entrepreneurs that sit on their hands and they think they have product market fit, but then when they go to market and they try to sell or do something, nothing's happening. They do not have product market fit.
Let me share. I start off our boot camp with this. You know this analogy, and it's so good for right here, right now. When you're an entrepreneur, imagine the analogy as an entrepreneur is somebody who wants to go entertain the crowd in a park. Well, you can entertain the crowd with a trained monkey sitting on a pedestal and showing how cool the monkey is and how trained it is. Well, the entrepreneur that goes out and says, oh, I got to build a pedestal to have the monkey up on it. So they spend all their time building this cool pedestal so the monkey can be seen by the crowd and it's on there. Anybody can build a pedestal. The hard part is training the monkey. And the analogy is this. The pedestal is your software product or your widget, whatever you're wanting to make the product. But training the monkey is a hair on fire use case in a target customer that wants and needs your product and will buy it and is clamoring for it.
The customer validation work.
And that's the hard part is training the monkey, not building the pedestal. And the more you let that sink in, the better entrepreneur you will be. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I could go on forever on product market fit, but we probably should skip it just to save time.
Okay,
I was going to say another comment, but I'm not going to. Okay. Hit me up online. I'll say what I wanted to later in another video. Okay. Number 3, how should I balance customer discovery versus building product?
Well, customer discovery comes first. We have a saying, you need to earn the right to build. What does that mean? That means until you validated your idea that your problem and solution, your need and solution are correct and worthy of pursuing, and then hypothesizing a business model and validating that business model so where you feel very strongly you're on your way to product market fit, you have to earn the right to build. We don't build first. So you don't need finished, perfect products to go out and test with customers and validate. You can do chicken scratch on a piece of paper and show them what you're intending to do. You can do mock-ups in PowerPoint. You can do 3D printed objects. You can do lots of things to give them a concept while you're validating, but you don't need to actually build a real product. So the balance is this. It's actually done first, validate and discover who your customer is and validate, then build, and then continue discovery with customers after you start building.
So I have 2 comments on that. So yes, customer discovery, think of it as like your first job, and then building, think of that as the reward to completing that job. So yes, your customer discovery first, and then earning the right to build, or the reward is building.
This brings up such a good point, Tyler.
What?
When people hear the word lean startup, most of you out there think lean startup is minimum viable product or MVP. MVP is literally the last final step of the lean startup process, or what we call customer validation and business model validation. The last thing you do is build your product, and you build it first to see if you can attract and interact with customers even before transacting with them for money. So that's what's funny. I have so many people say, yeah, I practice lean startup. I'm a great lean startup practitioner. I built an MVP with minimal feature set. Yes, but that's the final step, not the first step.
Okay, I'm going to make this as simple to understand as possible. There's a cycle in customer validation, and it's literally talk, learn, build, test. And it just repeats. Talk, learn, build, test. Talk, learn, build, test. Talk, learn, build, test. Do not do that out of any order. And it's constant. Customer validation never ends. When you're learning and building, you're testing, you're learning something new. You're talking, you're learning, you're building, you're testing. Just do that 4-cycle step, and you'll never get anything out of order.
Through validation, you earn the right to build.
Yep.
If you build without earning that right as an entrepreneur, you will miss the market, squander time and money.
Yep. Okay. Remember those 4 steps. That's it. Okay. Number 4, should I get significant traction before raising capital, or just keep bootstrapping longer?
That's a really good question. So I'll answer you. You should always get as much traction before raising capital if you can do that. And you should bootstrap as long as you possibly can. But what does that mean? You do not continue bootstrapping if it's choking your growth. If you could grow, if your slope of growth is going at 1% because you're bootstrapping, but if you got in some capital, you could go into an 8% incline on that slope of growth, you go the slope of growth. So I don't know how to make it any more clearer than that.
So, but should maybe even we can change this question up so we can understand a little bit more, how much traction is needed before raising capital maybe is a better question. This person said, should I get significant traction before raising capital? Yes, you always should get significant traction.
Unless you're going bankrupt.
Yes, but I think maybe a better question is instead of should I get significant traction before raising capital, is like maybe how much traction do I need before raising capital? Because I think the more traction you can add, whether that's users or revenue or product or market validation or customer validation, whatever that traction is that you're identifying, it's always going to help your case in fundraising.
Let's talk about traction. Let's go ideal situation. If you could actually get to a point where you're generating revenue and you put together 6 months in a row where revenue is increasing 10% month over month and you can get there without raising capital, you should wait till then and raise capital once you finish 6 months of having every month in that 6 month period increase revenue 10% over the previous month. If you do that, you will be able to write your own ticket in the venture world and raise more money than you ever thought you raised at a much higher valuation than you ever thought you could get. So that's the ideal. Peeling that back is just not having quite that revenue growth, not that consistent track record. Going back, if you don't have any revenue, if you can't build a revenue story, then it's about customer engagement. Are you attracting customers?
Do you have any pilots going? Do you have anybody that you sold
there's
or
innovation,
at least have on board?
There's innovation accounting, not just financial accounting. Innovation accounting is, do you have great advisors, investors? Have you got great tech people that join your company? Have you got customers registering and starting to use it even for free services? What traction? Traction is the only true thing that investors look for, but there's many types of traction.
And because the more traction, the more de-risked the deal is for the investor.
Yes, yeah.
The less amount of traction, the more risk they have to take on in your deal. So the more traction you can provide, the more de-risked your opportunity is, and more confidence you're instilling in the investor.
De-risking an opportunity means that then you will get more money at less cost.
So again, that question, I'm sorry for whoever submitted that question, but it's just a little bit hard to say, should I get significant traction before fundraising? Yeah, you should. Yes.
Yeah. If you don't have sufficient traction for the type of investor you're going to raise money from, that what they expect, you're not going to raise money.
Right.
Because most investors have a litmus test. Okay, where do I need them to be in order to invest? Yeah.
Okay. Number 5. How do I validate demand before investing too much into my idea? How do I validate demand before investing too much into my idea? So
that's just lean startup methodology. Validating demand is one of the first things you should do when you've devised a idea, which I would term an idea as a problem solution set. There's this problem in the marketplace. Here's my solution for it. And there's these people who need to get this done. Here's my solution to get that thing done. So that's a business idea. So this business idea, you then need to go validate it by talking to customers. We at Startup Ignition have a pre-lean startup technique that some of colleagues from us taught us, and they've encouraged us to include it in what we teach and share in the world, and it's called the wow factor test. We actually have a test where you quickly, even before doing full lean startup, will go talk to multiple target customers and find out their immediate and initial reaction to what your idea is and what you're planning or thinking of doing. And you get super good numerical feedback to tell you whether you should keep going or not.
Yeah. So to validate the demand for a product, you can even enter in within the validation step pre-selling your product too.
Yeah.
Like if you're worried about, okay, is there real true demand? I feel like my idea is validated, but is there actual true demand for buying this thing? Go and pre-sell it. Go and collect checks or money or even a minimal amount or an LOI or any kind of signed contract that will make you feel more comfortable around the demand around your product.
You want to hear one of the funniest ironies out there is this. I have countless entrepreneurs tell me, well, okay, you want me to go talk to customers or go tried to talk to them and get their feedback. It's so hard. I can't get in to talk to them. And I go, hold on a minute. You want to start a business to sell item X to this set of customers, but you're saying you can't get an appointment to ask them what they think of it. So let me ask you this. How are you going to get an appointment to go sell them?
Yeah.
and they go, wait a minute. And it's the silliest thing I've seen is the people literally say how hard, what they really don't want to do is don't want to go do validation. They just want to build their product because they know everybody's going to buy it.
Yeah.
Okay. But they're avoiding having to go to talk to customers early because they are uncomfortable with that process. But I'm going, hold on a minute. You do realize you have to contact customers and talk to them in order to sell them.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can't talk to a customer to validate, how are you going to ever sell them on something?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Number 6, here we go. I first learned about the tax saving 1202 QSBS from your podcast. What are the changes announced recently to QSBS? I'm confused. Can you guys explain?
Well, we'll share. We're not lawyers and tax advisors, but we'll say what we know.
Yeah.
Okay. So at first I thought that these changes applied to even ones. Okay. Let's stop for a second and say what it is.
Set the table a little bit better.
Section 1202 is a tax law in the United States of America, where if you are an early shareholder, and there's qualifications for what early is, and in the right type of C corporations, can't be an S corp, can't be an LLC, and you're early enough, including if you're an early investor, and it usually has to do with what the value of the company was when you invested, and you get in and hold those shares for 5 years or longer and then sell those shares, all of the gain is excluded from federal income tax. It's also excluded from most states' income tax, except for some states like California. California will still charge its state income tax. It's an incredible entrepreneurial benefit, one of the greatest tax laws ever for entrepreneurship.
But now,
and that's been going great, and we've benefited from that.
But now setting the table for 2025's bill.
2025, the BBB, the Big Beautiful Bill, changed it and improved it. But I thought maybe it was retroactive, but I've learned since that it's not. What it is everything before July 4th of 2025, a C Corp is going to be under the old rules. And what are the old rules? If you hold the shares for 5 years and then sell them, per shareholder, the first $10 million of gain excluded from taxes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the new rule to change in July 4th is if a company's C corporation stock is issued to a shareholder after July 4th of 2025, that shareholder holds it for over 5 years and sells, then 100% of the first $15 million. They also made one more change. If it's sold in the third year or the fourth year
or fifth year,
I should say the fourth or fifth year, after year 3 or after year 4, but before year 5, they prorate it.
It's tiered.
It's tiered. And the tier is if you sell after the third year, it's 50% excluded.
After the fourth year, it's 75%.
Fourth, 75%. Now, there's one caveat I've been reading about, and this, I hope we're not too technical here, but follow with me. Imagine you're 3.5 years into a venture and you sell $1 million worth of your stock as a founder to some other investor, okay? 500,000 of it will be excluded from taxes, no tax on that. But the other 500,000 is going to be taxed at the long-term capital gains rate.
Right, that's right.
Okay. And also subject to the state tax.
Yeah.
Okay. So not just federal, but state. So that's really important to understand. And matter of fact, let's say this, my understanding is this, let's say it's sold 6 months into the venture. You sold 100,000 6 months into the venture. Just say you did that.
Yeah.
Then that's not with the long-term holding. You would get zero because it's under 3 years, and you'd also be paying then ordinary income tax like anything because you sold it before a year up.
Yeah.
So this just changes, the new changes and the new deals being done now will get a benefit in after year 3 and then after year 4.
I think there's one thing you're missing here.
Okay, what is it?
It's the asset limit. You know, you said, what qualifies?
50 million?
Now it's moved up to 75
Oh, it
million.
has. That's another one.
Yeah.
So in other words, you can join a little later in the venture's life.
So what that means is at the very beginning in John's explanation of QSBS,
you had to be
talked
50
about
million
an
or
early
less.
stage. It has to be an early stage, and that's usually a company value of 50 million
or less.
But now they moved that mark up to 75 million or less.
Folks, this is one of the greatest incentives to entrepreneurship that the United States government's ever put for us. So it's fantastic. We've been benefits of it as investors, and it's incredible.
Yep.
Yep.
So
Okay.
that hopefully that explains the difference between the old QSBS July 4th, 2025 and before versus the new big beautiful bill QSBS section 1202.
Let's summarize it one last time. The changes are
The
10 million went to 15 million.
Yeah, the actual no, what is it called? The tax-free gain.
Yeah, 10 million went to 15 million.
10 to 15.
There's now prorated after 3 years and 4 years, which never existed before.
There's a tiered time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the 50 million qualifier went to 75
the asset
million.
limit valuation.
Yeah.
Okay. And is there anything else?
I think that's it.
I think
But
that's it.
It basically made something fantastic even better.
Yeah. And so again, that cutoff is July 4th of 2025 where that is new.
Yep.
What about if I'm holding a stock and part of my time is after July 4th, 2025, and I don't sell it until July 5th of 2030, but I started and got the stock before 2025. I wonder if I complete the 5-year time post July 4th,
it's the issue
2025.
date.
Is it the issue
That's
date?
what I understand.
Okay.
If we're wrong, tell us.
Yeah.
But it's
all
the
you
issue
attorneys
date.
out there, let us know.
By the way, there's some other techniques out there too.
We're not going to get into rollovers. We're not going to do that.
Too complex, but check them out.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We'll
keep
mention
going.
that. Head nod to the rollovers. Okay, number 7. Here we go. Another question. What's the best way to find early adopters who will buy when I am trying to build? Ooh, that's a good one.
What you mean, early adopter customers is if you're talking to customers that were willing to let you do validation interviews, there's a high likelihood that a good percentage of those will be early adopters. They were willing to spend time with you, answer questions, and give you feedback on your idea. They could be early adopters too.
Yeah, I always like to talk about the early adopters as the ones who are actively searching for your solution. Like I always talk about the watering holes where these groups gather. So to find these early adopters, go to where these groups are gathering either online or in person. So, forums, Facebook pages, Reddit or Quora, where they're talking about these topics, and just go participate in those communities.
I would put forth this concept. If you're doing lean startup correctly, which is going out and talking to customers super early in your venture.
But I think the question is how do I find those people?
I know, but to find them for early adopters is kind of putting the cart before the horse a little bit to me, because what it is first is you are doing lean startup and you're going to be talking to these customers anyway. As you're talking to them to get feedback and on your hypothesis for a venture, that will naturally come out. Oh, this could be an early adopter to be a first purchaser or first user.
But even I'm saying maybe I'm understanding the question a little bit differently than you, which is like, how do they find these people to either interview or to sell to? And again,
the question was early adopter. Early adopter is a customer, or a user. A candidate for validation, you go in saying this is not a sales call.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm saying you're already doing that. It naturally leads to early adopter finding.
Yeah. But
that's all I'm saying.
To summarize this question, to find people who might be interested in what you're doing, whether that's to talk to them, sell them, or early adopt, they're usually the crazy ones. Really, like we talk about how when Tesla came out, they only sold to the craziest tech heads in the world because the product wasn't as great as a normal car was at the time. So Tesla was built for the crazy tech heads in Silicon Valley, and those were the early adopters.
They would be the most patient users of an electric car that wasn't quite working right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so usually the early adopters are honestly some of the loudest people in the category. So like go to these online forums, and the people who are shouting and screaming about that problem or solution are usually the ones who are the most willing to early adopt.
But again, a certain percentage, if you interview 40 target customers, a certain percentage will go into early adoption. So the question could come back and really be, how do I find people to validate with?
Yeah.
And that is a whole nother topic, a wide topic. And we talk about conferences, industry workshops, conventions, trade
surveys.
shows. There's so many places
We've built tools to help in that initiative as well.
Yeah, we are fortunate enough, like we train a lot of entrepreneurs that live 4 or 5 hours from Las Vegas. You can look up in Las Vegas almost any industry that you could go interview around. They'll hold conventions and conferences there, and you can be in one place and meet hundreds, if not thousands of people in a certain vertical.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you just got to go where that market is that you're selling to or trying to talk to is.
And you get good geographic diversity from highly trafficked localities like that because they have visitors from over 100 countries in all 50 states. Because a lot of mistakes made by entrepreneurs is they get too myopic in who they're talking to. You don't want to just talk to 20 people in Topeka, Kansas if you're going to sell to the whole country. Yeah.
Okay. We're doing a pretty bad job at keeping this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Here we go. Another question. Everyone talks about an unfair advantage. What if I don't have one? How do I define my unfair advantage and communicate it to investors?
That's something proprietary that only you have, a moat that you've built around yourself. And that can be a lot of different things.
And if you don't have one, you need to find one.
Yeah. It can be people. If you have let's say you're doing something with AI and you've got a true machine language AI expert engineer that is, obviously a cut above the crowd, that's an advantage.
It could be.
It's unfair. Why do you have it and why don't I have it?
I'm just thinking of kind of unfair advantages that we've invested in our portfolio at Startup Ignition Ventures. Like, it could be a strategic partnership only you have access to.
Domain experience.
Yeah, it could be your history of your knowledge around the topic or the field that you're trying to enter into.
Or a contract you've got.
Or it could be even some kind of technology or secret sauce that you're holding.
Let me tell you one. There's a woman I mentor in Florida who long ago, I'm talking 20 years ago, got a lifetime right to get special pricing from Priceline for hotel rooms. Okay, so Priceline lets her get access to this great pricing that's grandfathered in for her. Okay, that's an unfair advantage against other people competing with her because she's getting the lowest pricing possible. That's an unfair advantage.
So when you're communicating with investors, think of whatever this unfair advantage is.
She's going to tout that all day long.
You have to communicate that effectively and communicate that properly in your pitch to investors, because I do think investors are looking like, what is your differentiator? What is your unfair advantage? Like, why you and not the 10 other tools that I just Googled when I was sitting in this meeting with you?
Yeah.
So, okay. So if you don't have an unfair advantage, you need to get creative and or really sit down and think about what it is that it could be, because you have to have an unfair advantage. Otherwise, you're just a Me Too company. All right, next question. When I went through the boot camp, here we go, boot camp alum. When I went through the boot camp, you talked about pivoting and persevering. When do I know when I should pivot, and when do I know when I should persevere?
You pivot when your target market tells you to pivot, that you're wrong, that your assumptions and hypotheses are incorrect. Persevere just means, okay, I validated that assumption. So let's go back and just review again. Lean startup is based on the concept that on day one, you have hypotheses and assumptions, not facts. You need to go prove that your assumptions and hypotheses are facts. As you go out and do that through little experiments or big experiments, over time, you will be checking off, okay, this assumption's a fact. I know it's true. Great. Oh, this assumption was wrong. How did I find that the one was a fact and the other one was wrong? By talking to 20 or more customers, and they told me what the situation is, and that's the truth. The customers are the source of truth. So I found this out and I decided to pivot. Oh, okay. What I thought was going to be part of my business model or how something would work or what I would do is wrong. I'm going to pivot and change that. Now I'm going to go take that hypothesis for a new pivoted idea or mechanism in my business model. I'm going to go now test it with, again, 20, 30, 40 different people in my target market and find out if that hypothesis is correct. That's the scientific method. Viewers and listeners, Lean Startup is literally just the scientific method you learned in 6th grade science class about you're hypothesizing how something will go. You go out and conduct an experiment to see if your hypothesis is correct. If it's wrong, you pivot or go back and change your hypothesis and then test again. If you were right, you check that off and go on to the next thing you need to test. That's science.
For me, I think you have to be really honest with yourself too. Because I see a lot of founders running into walls during their validation efforts, and they should be pivoting, but they keep persevering because they think that they're on the right track. But if you're really honest and really structured, and are doing validation the correct way, and the feedback is coming that a lot of customers or these interviews are being pretty negative. They're not liking what you're telling them. Like, it's time to pivot.
Yeah, you're bringing up, there's some really deep topics here, but we got to touch on it because you brought it up, is confirmation bias. Entrepreneurs are really guilty of confirmation bias. What confirmation bias is, in its simplest terms, is when a fact hits your skull and it disagrees with your preconceived notion, it just bounces off your skull and you pretend you don't hear it. If the fact endorses or validates your preconceived notion, it goes through your skull, gets in your brain, and you feel validated. Let's say that 50% of what's being sent your way from your customers is saying you're wrong and 50% is saying you're right. Well, you need to not think you've got 100% validation. What are the other 50% saying was wrong, and what's going on here? An example, I love, Steve Blank, the father of Lean Startup, one time said he had a student come to him and say, I validated with 50 people, 47 validated what I was doing, and 3 said we were wrong. And it's not about the 47 and that they just validated from those numbers. He said, what did the other 3 say? Well, the other 3 said, if we added 2 features, I wouldn't pay $10 for it. I'd pay $10,000 for it. Well, that's insightful data, and you need to take that into account and say, maybe the $10,000 per sale business is better than the $10 per sale business, and that's a better opportunity. This is how a scientist would approach a science project. This is how you as an entrepreneurial scientist needs to approach getting your data in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So just be true to yourself and pivot or persevere and do validation the right way.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. I only raised $100,000 through a ton of small checks. How do I manage burn rate and cash runway effectively and make it last?
Well, it depends on a lot of situations there.
That's a really broad question.
But just generally speaking, you should always be frugal as possible.
Managing burn rate is literally about just, you have to reel in your expenses. You have to ruthlessly control your expenses.
Yeah.
It's on $100,000, you have to watch it.
And also, it bothered me where it said a bunch of small checks. Taking in small checks from unsophisticated investors, maybe unaccredited investors, even though you can only do that if you have a prior relationship with those unaccredited investors, generally speaking. But still, should you be taking small checks from a bunch of unaccredited investors, meaning people that are not very wealthy and shouldn't be doing this risky investing? Should you be doing that? That's a big question mark. And raising $100,000 now, how do I maintain my frugality? If you're not good at being frugal, you better have a co-founder who is and let them control the purse strings, because the money can go so fast and you can make so many expensive mistakes. So again, this is why in our bootcamp, Tyler, we teach not just business finance, but a little bit of personal finance, because you've got to understand how to manage money and cash. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you can boil it down to, when you have $100,000 and you're trying to manage your burn and you're trying to extend your runway, only do things that are really going to push your product forward or your revenue generation forward. If it's not doing either of those 2 things, you cannot spend money on it.
I just got to hit this home to our viewers and listeners. Entrepreneurship is, at the startup entrepreneurship, the first 18 months of your venture is not about the amount of capital you have. That's not what it's about. It's about your ingenuity and your ability to go out and validate your idea and then your business model and find product market fit. I know people that have built a company they ultimately sold for $100 million approximately, and they raised $200,000 the entire life. This young man to my right over here had a multi-tens of $million sale of his company. They didn't raise a penny. It was all bootstrapped.
Yeah.
It's not about the money. Matter of fact, one of the most nefarious problems in all of entrepreneurship is raising too much money too soon will almost put you on a path.
But you brought up a good principle there, which is...
will put you on a path to not making it.
Yeah, but you brought up a good principle, which was to extend runway is offsetting it by revenue generation.
Yes.
So if you get to early revenues quicker, faster, and even if it trickles at the beginning, you're offsetting burn, you're offsetting expenses. Yeah. So hyper focus on revenue, and then you can extend runway for much longer, right?
Yeah. So all of your early expenses should be about helping you get more sales or making your product better. If you're having founders who have to have market rate salaries to survive, you're going to have a very hard time in that environment where you've only raised $100,000. Yep.
Okay, here we go. We're getting close on time here. I
Okay,
might have to
go for
cut
it.
some of these questions off,
Okay.
but I am seriously struggling with pricing my product. Any tips or mentorship there?
Well, that's interesting you say that, because we just added that feature to our academies. We have a AI-powered platform that helps you do lean startup extremely fast and efficiently. And we've just added a new feature where when we're going and talking to customers, we're also now gathering pricing data, and we can help point you to profit maximizing and revenue maximizing price points. This is called finding your pricing elasticity, where if you raise your price, all of a sudden your demand drops down. You want to find that place on the mathematical curve. So the answer to this question is there's lots of pricing algorithms and mechanical processes that you can do to find the answer to this. Too much to go into in this podcast, but we have the tools and many other people have the tools to help you find pricing. I will say, generally speaking, though, if you're out there guessing and not using these scientific tools to do it, you should start high. It's much easier to come down and find the right price than to start low and increase your price up.
And my answer to that is like, what's the value that you're giving to your customer? Like, is this a must-have hair on fire problem that you're ending up to solve for them? Or is this just like a nice to have thing that they don't really need and they could use it, but they don't have to have it? So that value that you're bringing to the customer will definitely impact price. Like, is this a $100 product? Is this a $10,000 a month product? Or is this a $10 a month product?
Right.
So
like
keep that in mind. Like, what's the value you're delivering?
And a lot of products are geared to either help, like if I'm selling B2B to another business, I'm selling them something. Is this going to help them generate more revenue or save on the expense side? And how much is it doing? If it's only helping them generate a little bit more revenue and save a little bit on expenses, that's not as valuable as something that really increases my revenue or really decreases those expenses.
I watched an awesome video that we always say must have or nice to have. Like, do we have to have it? Is this a necessary thing that you're bringing to the table? But I was watching a video the other day and they said, is it a painkiller or is it a vitamin?
Yeah.
Like, do you need this painkiller right now? Like, you're dying, or are you just preemptively taking a vitamin to maybe be healthier one day, right? That's the spectrum. So what are you, a painkiller or a vitamin? If you're a painkiller, charge them an arm and a leg for it. If you're a vitamin, you might only be getting pennies, right?
Yeah, but just so you know, in the field of business, there are mathematical tests and algorithms you can use to find your proper
price
pricing
and your elasticity.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I am currently, next question. I am currently fundraising and figuring out my plan. What roles should I be hiring for first? Oh, my dad's going to like this one. I'm currently fundraising and figuring out my plan. What roles should I be hiring for first?
Well, should I just run through the classic sense? The classic thing would be, let's say there's two co-founders. One's on the business side, one's on the tech side, whatever their tech is. So you have those two. Those two go out and start building a company and launching. Well, you want the business side guy leading out in sales. So he's going to be doing sales, and he's going to be doing the prospecting, the appointment setting, the presenting, and the closing. And he's going to do those things until he runs out of time. If he signs up people, he's going to start doing activation and onboarding and customer service. Okay, that's going to steal time from other things. Eventually, the very first person, usually people are going to, founders are going to hire, is that person to take the activation, onboarding, customer service off their plate. Because the founders should be the ones selling. They're the ones who know the product. They need to figure out sales systems before they start hiring professional salespeople. So I believe that your first hire will be a customer service, customer success person that takes care of activation, onboarding of customers, even before you hire other salespeople. Now, not a lot of people follow that sometimes, and they just go out and hire a bunch of salespeople. But the problem is if you hire a bunch of salespeople and get so many sales coming in, and then you're not taking care of those customers right, they're going to leave you, and you're not going to get that repeat sale, that renewal sale, which is the sure sign of success and product market fit, and you've got a problem with your business model. So once again, founders, then probably somebody to take care of activation, onboarding, and customer service. Then you're going to go back and maybe hire an appointment setting sales development rep that'll set more appointments for the founders so they can sell more. And eventually, when the company's growing and maturing, you're going to hire account executives to be the professional salespeople to help the CEO, chief salesperson, the CEO, do more sales calls. And that's how you start growing a company. Obviously, on the tech side, yeah, you have your co-founder tech guy. You're probably going to have a junior developer join him pretty soon, maybe even before that customer service. So on the tech side and business side, there's certain ways to hire people. The mistakes we see, which is maybe what people are looking for on here, is hiring a whole slew of salespeople too early.
Yeah.
That'll kill you.
Or even someone to take that whole role from you too early. I think the way you look at early hires is they should be filling gaps that prevent you from product building or revenue generating.
Yeah.
So for the technical co-founder, if you feel like you are not building product at a pace that you should be because you have so much on your plate, yeah, maybe that warrants a new early hire of a technical role employee. If you're the business side or the sales or the revenue generating side, and you're finding that you're not able to spend all your time and efforts over there, there's just too much to do, okay, then that probably warrants a new sales or SDR or some BD or someone, but you're never offloading the whole task. It's just filling the gaps that you're dropping or you're not able to get to.
Underline that question is a super important principle. So we'll share this really quickly. And that is this, is that it's the founder's job to systematize the processes of the company. You don't hire a white knight or somebody from a big company and bring them into your startup and say, I need you to systematize my sales process or whatever. That's not how it works. What it is the founders figure out how to sell, activate, onboard, provide customer service, retain customers, and they systematize it so that they can then hire non-founders to do this system that's now in place and use their professionalism to execute really well. So in the fields of selling, you don't hire some salesperson, then they come in and they have no system. They don't know how to sell it. The founder doesn't know how to teach them how to sell it, and they just are floundering. Most of the time, that founder will come to you and say, well, I hired some salespeople and they all sucked.
Yeah.
And we go, what do we say to them? No, you suck.
Yeah.
You suck because you did not create a system for selling that you could teach to a non-founder and replicate what you have already figured out.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Next question. I watched an episode of your podcast and you guys hate remote teams. Why? And what if that is my only option? Question mark, question mark, question mark.
Repeat that one more time.
I watched an episode of your podcast and you guys hate remote teams. Why? And what if that is my only option? Question mark, question mark, question mark. 3 question marks.
I'm probably against them more than you.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
but it's not like I dislike remote teams. It's just more like an early stage startup is about speed and efficiency and the serendipitous collisions that happen when working with people to get over problems faster, quicker, and better.
Well, let's go back. I'm going to answer this person directly.
Okay, go.
Because the data shows that remote teams underperform compared to teams that office together.
Yeah.
That's all the data shows that.
But why? It's because the speed that you need and those interactions that you need and just the overall rapid feedback that you need all happen better in person.
Yes,
That's
no matter what, in my entire decades in business, being in the same office with your co-founders compared to even being 1 mile apart working out of your home, the little nuances of a company, the little things that come up, being able to swivel in your chair like Tyler and I are sitting here, we're working together and I get, Tyler, I got this problem. What do we got to do to figure this out? And he goes, oh, we can do this. In 30 seconds, 90 seconds, 5 minutes, you've solved a problem. If I had to write him a Slack message, an email, or a text, wait for him to respond, he doesn't see my facial gestures. He doesn't see my body language. He doesn't see the level of my concern, the voice inflection. the communication breakdown, everything starts taking longer. And over all of the thousands and tens of thousands of things to be done in a startup, if you start adding 50%, 100%, 150% to the time to get things done, then all of a sudden your startup is losing the race against time. You've only got so much capital and time to get to where you need to get to.
I think
that's the real answer.
The remote teams just make it harder for that alignment to happen, the accountability to happen. It just sets an early stage startup behind. That's all.
Trust me, if remote teams and offshore engineers, whatever, worked and the data shows it works and the experience shows it works, we would do it. It's cheaper.
Yeah.
Okay. But it doesn't. Now, one place where I'm still impressed, though, is actually the concept of virtual assistants. White collar work, we know that AI is threatening a lot of white collar work, but what's been happening the last 10 years is it's been very efficient for lower paid workers in other nations to be virtual assistants doing white collar administrative work. And you and I have several portfolio companies that are taking advantage of that, and it's working really well. Not engineers. The engineers that they have remote in other nations are supplementing a strong team here in the US. But literally, there are some places where remote workers are doing well, but it's not remote founding teams, and it's not the first key hires.
But this question does say, and what if that is my only option? So to whoever asked this question, to you to answer that is, if remote is your only option, then you need to realize the hurdles that you're going to have to get over and
make up for it with other strengths.
Yeah, you're going to have to over communicate, create the necessary connections forcibly to actually collide with your teammates and just be on top of it and recognize you're going to have to deal with that.
Let me ask you this question, Tyler. Two companies, company A, company B. Company A and B are exactly like in almost every ways with traction, idea, opportunity. Everything's looking good on that. Company A has 2 founders and 2 non-founders in it, office together. Same office, 1,200 square feet. They each have 300 square feet. They're really close together. Company B, everything equal.
2 founders, 2 employees.
And they're working from home or
4
co-working
separate
space
spaces
and in different cities or miles apart.
That's it's a no-brainer.
A or B, what do you choose?
A, no-brainer.
Okay.
Yeah, just because.
So that answers the question.
Well, I think we can boil this down to that shared energy of team A is ultimately going to put them ahead of team B. It really will. That shared energy.
Where's there more risk?
Yep.
B.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So. All right, so that's just. But if it can't be your only option. If it's your only option, we need to talk about that. I mean, I'm sure there's people in some circumstances
it can
where it's
be their only option. I've just said, recognize the hurdles and the struggles you're going to have to deal with, and you have to combat
how hard it's going to be to raise money.
Yeah, just realize that. That's what you're getting into.
But if they've hit on an incredible business idea and they are showing incredible growth potential, then somebody will give them enough money to not have to be remote.
Yeah, you just have to have that extra intention and that extra diligence around the remoteness of your team.
Correct.
Right?
All right.
Okay, next question. And I think we might have to cap this one right here. This is the last one. We didn't get to all 20. We tried really hard, guys. Okay. What operational hacks do you have for founder efficiency? When wearing so many hats as a founder, I'm finding it very hard. So what operational hacks do you have for founder efficiency when wearing so many hats as a founder? I'm finding it very hard.
Number 1, do you love your idea and what you're working on? So on Sunday night, are you excited for Monday morning? Do you love what you're doing? If you don't love being an entrepreneur, love the idea and the industry you're in, and just love what you're doing, like you like to say something I taught you to say, I think years ago, is you cannot not do this company. It's in you. You have to do it. You
have
love
to
it.
feel
You
that
want to do
passion
it.
towards it.
That's number 1. That's the hack. If you've got that, a lot of other things take care of themselves. Number 2, do you like the people you're working with? If you have bad relations, there's a weird element in there, you don't get along, something's going on, living with problems, living with something not quite right with other people, also will add stress and make you less efficient and not get all the other things done. So those two things are important. Do you love what you're doing in your heart of hearts? And do you like the people you're working with? If you're the CEO, primary founder, if there's people that just aren't working on your team, you need to fix that problem. If you got those two things taken care of, a lot of other stuff becomes trivial.
Yeah, I agree with that statement, but also there are a lot of things you need to be paying attention to as a founder. And I know you have to wear so many hats. That statement is so true. You're literally juggling 100 things. But a huge piece of advice I got like 20 years ago was like, if something's top of mind as a founder and you're trying to figure it out, just go and do it. Like drop everything else and just do it, because that's top of mind. That's what you're worried about. That's what you're stressing out about. Just go and do it. Yeah. And another thing that I love about stress as a founder, and obviously something that I heard recently from a video that went kind of viral from Jeff Bezos, is he said that stress is actually just the feeling you feel when you're not doing something when you absolutely could be doing something. He's like, stress only comes when you know you have a task at hand and you're ignoring that task. So my advice to this founder who's wearing so many hats is just go and do whatever you're thinking about and just get it done.
It's so funny you say that, because I'm both of those things. I get something in my craw and I just go do it right now, because I know if I don't, I won't get it done, and I just go do it. And that is such a rewarding feeling. And then the same thing on the other thing that you mentioned too, that's just
what the Jeff Bezos thing?
The stress thing. But what for me, I have a little bit of procrastination in me, just a little bit. And so I've recognized that, like, the time available is how long it takes you to do something. Like I could have 2 hours to get something done and take the 2 hours to get it done, or it could be 10 minutes before it gets done. And that 10 minutes, I actually get it done. It's crazy. So I really only needed 10 minutes. And it's kind of a funny thing about me. And I've recognized that in myself. And so what happens is, that's why I like doing the things right now. When I felt that at 2 hours, I just go take the 10 minutes, get it done. Then I can do other things. It's interesting. I operate really well under stress and pressure.
Really? Yeah. You kind of force stress on yourself? That's kind of weird.
I know. But it happens. Everybody finds their way. That's my way.
But hopefully this was a little bit helpful for you guys. We tried to get to all 20 of them. Maybe we'll make some more videos of the remaining. I think it was 5 or 4 that are left. But I feel like a lot of founders are experiencing the same thing. When I was going through these questions, it's like, I swear I've asked that myself in my career like 20 times myself too. Like, oh, I'm wearing so many hats. How do I balance like everything that I'm trying to do? Or, what's an operational hack you have? Or, what is QSBS? Like all of these are very common, and they're all being discussed all throughout their internet and everywhere. So find your community, collaborate with people who are trying to do the same thing that you're trying to do, and peer mentor each other. Like find other entrepreneurs that are doing in the same stage that you are, and you'll find that this becomes so much easier.
Subscribe and follow us on this podcast too, but join as a free membership on our Startup Ignition Academy, and you can email and message directly to us, and we can talk to you within that platform. We'd invite you to start doing that, and there's a whole community there of like-minded lean startup practitioners and doing cool stuff with startups. We'd love to see you in there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And thank you for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe, hit us up with your questions. Let us know what we should talk about next. Like, I think it's pretty fun just when John and I come in here and shoot the breeze and talk about whatever's relevant for that day's topic. And so if you guys have any episode advice or any kind of feedback for us or whatever we should be talking about next, we're all ears about it. But thank you for coming and listening to these founder startup questions today. That's it for today's episode. We're signing off. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you next time. See you later.